Well, you might not be wondering who I am, but I have been a college football fan for many, many years. I not only follow the sport on a daily occasion, I follow it weekly, listening to the Joel Klatt podcast from Monday through Wednesday, listening to every episode of Sicko's Committee, reading anything and everything I possibly can about the game of football. I can do that now because of the thankful wishings of not only my mom and from not only what I experienced in college, but also because I love this sport so much. Because I would give everything to watch a college football game on a weekday, even. And it's an addiction, it's a drug. Sometimes it can be damaging. But let me tell you something. At one point in my life, I was once a really bad college football fan. Watched it Monday through Friday. Literally. Had no care about my family or what was going on to a certain point. And it got to a point where even when my grandmother, who I'm going to get into a little bit, was beginning to develop Alzheimer's, every day I just felt the itch and the nerve to continue watching college football. On Saturday from 9 a.m. all the way till the end of the day. I'm not going to say it's an addiction. I love what I love. And if I love college football and I have a love and a passion for it, and if you have a love and a passion for it, I'd highly recommend you continue watching it. But keep in mind, this college football season's important. It's the most talented it's ever been. You still have an 18 tournament. You still have a lot of things going for the sport, and it's very positive. But let me tell you something. There was a time when I was an addict to college football. It is so hard. It's a drug. I get it. It's a drug. You watch it, the tackles, the field goals, the punts, the miracle Cinderella stories. You hear about all that, and then you get to know reality. Because like this quote says, it's just football. Yes, I said it. It's just football. I'll explain to you why, in the most comprehensive way, when I learned about this. Like I mentioned, when I was 14 years old, I was beginning to watch college football for the first time in my life. I do remember watching my first game in 2009 between Texas and Texas A&M on Thanksgiving Day of 2009. Ever since that day, I have been a college football fan. I watched it very sparingly when I was really young, especially watching IU and Purdue in that historic game in 2007. But one thing is for sure, and that thing is that college football instantly became a drug. It became something I could not stop giving up. The NFL, the same thing. The NBA, the same thing. I could not get off of this drug. But I just said that I had friends of mine in school that not only loved football as much as I did, some of them played football and continued playing it throughout high school and even some college. I had a lot of buddies that were athletes, and we'd talk and talk about the games, mainly college basketball in the winter, but in the falls it would be college football or the Manny Pacquiao Floyd Mayweather fight that was coming up that year in 2015. I was in middle school, to put that into context. It was such a big deal for sports to infiltrate my life. I always wanted to be, in some ways, knowledgeable about sports so I could then be a sports broadcaster or something other than or be a sports analyst. Do something in my life. Get my mom at least some good NIL money to move on later. But all my life completely changed when in 2017 I faced one of the worst years of my life. And I'll be quite honest, I'm not going to get into the details, but I attempted to take my own life. And that's all I'm going to say about it. And so I suffered a significant injury that caused me to have hours and hours of surgery. And as soon as I got out of the first inpatient I was in and the first hospital I was in, I was not grasping what all was happening with sports. I was just not there. I was actually not there to understand family, values, love. I was losing that. Even one staff member, I drank an orange juice like I'm going to drink this water right here. Drink an orange juice so when anyone's talking to me, especially about an important thing, or think I'm slacking off, I don't just sip. I was sipping like doing the A staff member at the hospital I was at, Riley Children's, said, "You want to get out of here or what?" Said it with the most stern face possible. And that was when reality kicked in for me, or began to. But it really didn't kick in to me until I went to a center called Campania Academy. And in that center, I learned how to not only be a mature person, but to also be a good, honest, trustworthy individual. Again, rebuild myself. I think there's times men need to rebuild themselves. Men need to rebuild themselves from the ground up, especially when you are under stress or have no father in the home. Especially when your mother's trying to do everything she can. And keep in mind, single moms can raise good children. Just like me, I got my bachelor's degree, but more on that later. So, it was 2017, and I had just gotten into Campania, and immediately I made my presence known there. I was one of the best kids on the unit. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, all went by. I got through all of the most important stages to get to Phase 3. And Phase 3 is where you begin to then take classes when you actually begin to visit home for the first time for 48, 72, 96 hours. That means you get to stay with your parents for 3 or 4 days, and then with that being said, Phase 4 could then extend it to 72 hours to 96 hours. So that means you're staying with your family for 5 days or 4 days, 4 to 5 days. So keep in mind that not only was I learning, I was growing too. So I was on Phase 4 by that point. And once I had gotten to Phase 4, it was August of 2017. My grandmother, who suffered from 5 years of a debilitating dementia and debilitating Alzheimer's, she had just moved into the assisted living that year before in 2016. So it was August. I just celebrated my birthday. I had the best 16th birthday party ever. All of a sudden, my grandmother is then fallen in the shower 3 days after my birthday. So it was August 12th. And on August 12th, that was the same day that I not only was in the hospital due to a overdose attempt, I was also now having to potentially bury my grandmother. Before that even was going to happen, my mom was on the phone with me at Campania saying, "She's going to be okay. I hope she's okay." Like that. Didn't know what to do. I thought she died. I really wanted to be back home. And that was a pressure point. But before I came back home, for this pass I was going to go on, my grandmother survived a horrible scare. We thought she was going to go, but then she's at she's at a nursing home in our small town. And so she's now in this nursing home. They treated her pretty well, considering her circumstances. Not great, but pretty well. But there, at this pass, I was always having to go to the nursing home 3 days a week, or 3 days during that past period, because she didn't get out of the nursing home until that September. My grandmother was sitting there suffering. Here I was with a remote watching the drug that was beginning to overtake my life again, and that was college football. So I not only decided to grab the remote and watch a game or two, I just wanted to distract myself from this horrible reality of being in a room with a very small TV, very small bed, very small couch, and chairs that were uncomfortable. So I just wanted to make myself feel a little bit comfortable. It was week 1 of the regular season, and the Florida Gators and the Michigan Wolverines were playing in a game in August of 2017. And now I don't remember the score, I don't remember what happened, but here's why. I remember very, very distinctly. My mom said to me while I was watching the game, Michigan was on a 4th down conversion near the end zone. My mother wanted to convert me and said, "Braydyn, I want you to go down the hall from this nursing home and I want you to see some patients that are bad off." Shrugging, I'm like, why do I need to see them? Why do I need to see all these people that are suffering and hurt? I've been to nursing homes all my life and viewed it as absolutely nothing. So I viewed this as nothing until I walked down this narrow hallway. And what I saw shook me to my core. Because there was a stinky odor, a very bad odor, flies everywhere. A woman in a cane was begging for her meds, while her nurse had nothing to do. Couldn't do anything. She couldn't even get the bed. She looked pale, almost white pale, with lines on her face. She looked exhausted beyond recognition. Then, I remember we turned the right corner in this hallway. Patient after patient after patient, all of which were on different types of Medicaid health insurance, were just lining the halls, sick, ill, dying, near death. It was a horrible sight to see. Very, very crippling.
And then in the middle of us going down this hallway near the right side of the nursing home, there were actually 3 rooms that included some of the worst patients that I have ever seen. Some of which were so bad off mentally, emotionally, even more physically, that they were housed in a special 3-bedroom area. And so they had 3 separate rooms for these individual patients. One of which was a guy named Matt, who back in 1999 got involved in a serious car accident when he was 19 years old. After this car accident, he was brought back to life, although he was pronounced dead for over 3 or 4 hours. Matt not only was a fighter until his death in 2019. His death not only marked and sparked an inspiration in a lot of people, it should have been made into a movie. A guy that got into a bad habit of using, got into a horrible accident when he was young. His mind was at the time was still when he was 18 years old, still driving that car, getting into that drunk driving, getting into that accident for the first time, driving while impaired by using a drug he never used even one bit. The tragic part is, I looked at him, he looked pale as a ghost, he looked almost looked about 400 pounds, very obese, very mentally and physically not there, but his mind was trapped at 18. He was still trapped in that old soul. He looks at me in this look like, don't ever think about doing what you did again. Don't even try it. Don't even do it. He didn't even say, you could just tell in his eyes. Because he was nonverbal, got fed through a feeding tube, and always fought with staff and even his parents when they came in. He was a complete mess. And I remember he was somebody that was not only easy to remember, but he was also not only easy to forget. He was bedbound in a wheelchair, and you could just say to yourself, that boy that jumped off that balcony could have and would have made the same mistake and ended up in the same position to become a vegetable just like Matt. He not only died a hero for me because I needed to hear his word, but I do remember my total love of college football is there. It just wasn't the same after that because it brought me back to reality. I'm not going to give the phrase it's just football, because I know we have to understand it's a game. What do you win in a game? You gotta win in the game of life. Once your life here is over, it's done, it's complete. It's complete. And God has a place for you up in heaven, or wherever you would go to. Let's be real. College football, in the brightest sense, just like everything that we're captivated with in life, is a game for us. Something to enjoy, something to get our minds off of things. But some men use it to get away from their wives, get away from their kids, get away from the life's troubles. It can manifest itself and get a lot worse. Like I just mentioned, you'll separate from your mom, you'll separate from your wife, you'll separate from your kids, you'll separate from your grandparents, you'll separate from weddings, you'll separate from anniversaries. You'll even worse off, men who watch college. Some men who watch college football even separate from the birth of their child. Yeah, or the high school graduation, or the high school reunion, or the family outing at the park, just for the love of the game of college football. It's a manifestation. It's not a reality. Family. Loving, caring relationships with family members are way more important than Ole Miss in Georgia. Having your mom bring you cake for the first time you have had cake for your birthday and celebrate that with your family that you haven't seen in close to 5 years is more important than LSU and Clemson. Going off and going to the assisted living facility and meeting your mom and feeding her and bathing her and showering her every Saturday is bigger than any Ohio State undefeated season. Because guess what? You're undefeated in taking care of your family. You're undefeated in taking care of your mom. You're undefeated with spending devoted family time. Because one thing I learned with the people that you love and the people you don't, and not with people that you hate. Not with beer, not with remotes, not with fighting over television, not over betting on games, not over spending enough money than you cannot even spend, not around DraftKings, not around Lee Corso. I'll be honest, we love Lee Corso, but find a grip in your life, man. Figure it out now before you can if you're a teenager, figure it out now before you figure it out later. I get football is a big and luxurious thing to watch. I've watched it for many years. I'm not saying don't watch football. I'm saying balance it this season. Balance your love of football. Balance your love of your Ohio State Buckeyes or your Indiana Hoosiers or your Texas Longhorns. Whoever you cheer for. Don't make that separate your life away from your family. Don't make that simple bet on Oregon and Penn State be your last bet you make because you're at $5 and you lost your bet. Guess what? You can't pay rent. You can't pay your taxes. You can't even pay for your bills. So you've destroyed your life. You've destroyed your family because of your stupid football addiction. That, at the end of the day, is the reason why I brought this up. Is that if you bring football to the equation, it may divide some people. Who cares? Roll Tide, War Eagle. Because at the end of the day, we could say Roll Tide and Roll Tide, War Eagle, hook 'em horns. But at the end of the day, there's a life to live. And at the end of the day, if you are broke, don't bet on your last dollar. If you're gambling, please be responsible. If you're drinking, please be responsible. If you love family, that's way more important than a football game at times. When your grandmother is in the hospital with dementia and you got to take her back to the assisted living, feed her, bathe her, clothe her, do whatever you can to help her, do you even care if Vanderbilt's playing Clemson? Or do you care if San Jose State is playing Coastal Carolina? Do you really care? No, you don't. Because if you're a caregiver, you're going to be helping your elder. Because guess what? At the end of the day, if you caregive, especially if you are a caregiver, I give a humongous shout out to you. We lived that life for 5 years. It was a painstaking experience. But what I will tell you is that with that pain, there's also glory at the end. You rested your elder in a spot in life where they are going to heaven, where they are going to a better place. You sent them there. You helped them. And you did everything you could for them to improve their life so their afterlife could be 10 times better than their life in this current world. You did the best you could, and you're doing the best you can if you are a caregiver out there. Do not let this football get to your head so much to where you can separate that from your family's life. At the end of this story, I will say, when I got back to watching the Michigan-Florida game, I don't remember anything about it. I had to watch the whole game on YouTube. I don't remember a thing about it. All I know is that at the end of the day, it didn't matter if Michigan or Florida won. It mattered that I learned a life-stretching experience, a life-changing experience. And I got first-hand knowledge of what my life would have been like if my suicide attempt would have gone through, if I would have been dead, if I would have been gone. Nobody cares about college football when I'm gone. No one will. Because the day they hear Braydyn Bear has died, they won't care one bit about the freaking football game on TV. Whether that's NFL or college football, whether it's the national championship with Texas and Penn State, or the Super Bowl with the Rams and the Chiefs. It doesn't matter. Football is a game.